because it gives you, I tend to look at things in large icons. That's it. So it actually shows you the design in thumbnail format. Right, so I'm just going to choose any one of these patterns. Watermelons are popular at the minute, so I'll choose the watermelon. This is applique, and you can tell that because it's not got a filled in colour like the strawberries. It's just white background with the coloured lines. So you would applique that, which if you're not sure, I'll just quickly run over now. Embroidery machine lays a stitch and then you lay fabric over the top. It stitches that same shape again over the top of your fabric. You trim it and then it does a nice satin stitch to finish it off. So that's applique very, very briefly. So I'm going to drop that over to the machine like that. Say yes to copying it over, and then we're going to come over to the machine, and there it is. So we'll just go back to here. So we're choosing this option because we're dragging it straight from the computer with the cable. If we had a thumb disk, we'd use this one. And there's our pattern, our design. So tap on that. It shows you that you can only use it with the large hoop because all the others are greyed out. It's telling you that it's 5.58 inches by 4.97 inches. Okay, so we can set that, change the colours if we wanted to. This also is an identification that it's an applique pattern because it's showing you, rather than a colour, it's showing you that that is going to be a stitch, that's going to be stitch and cut for the first set of applique, which would be the dark green around the outside. Then the second set of applique would be the lighter green, or maybe you'd want to use white inside, and then cut that, and then it's going to do the different coloured satin stitches to finish it off. Okay, so that's about as much as you need to know to just get going on the display and the machine. So now we'll just do a quick bit about threading the machine. Right, so now we're going to show you how to thread the machine. So this is number 1, you can tell that because it's got a number 1 there and it's to the far right. Okay, so this is going to be needle 1 on your machine. So I'm going to use pink for now. So we put the bobbin on, the spool on. We bring the thread up and we thread it through the hole at the top. Gives it a nice thread, it eases it through gently, and if there's any little tangles it eases them through the hole and it sorts them out for you. We then go on to this next hole, which can be a little bit tricky to thread. One tip is to make sure you've got a nice clean end. So any little stray threads will hinder you getting it through that hole. I'm trying to work behind the camera. I can't see. Okay, here we go. Right, we're through there now. So we've got step 1, adding on the spool. Step 2, through the first feeder. Step 2, the second feeder. We've got another feeding station down here. Through this little grey tube. Catch the end. And then this bit here, it's got 2 like teeth. It's on a bit of a spring. Got a tooth at the back and a tooth at the front, and we just tuck the thread underneath, and then we have to put it around the tension discs. So this one's number 1 because it's numbered up there, and it's also numbered down there. On the machine itself, excuse mine's very dusty, is a little picture with arrows of where you got to go. So we come from number 1 and we go, it's showing me to go round the tension disc that way, which I'll do. Making sure it's sandwiched in there. Can you see that at the side? Sandwiched in there. And then we're going to come down here, this side of this metal bar, and then to the left side of this metal bar, and the same as we did at the top, underneath those little teeth. Okay, now we're going to work down the machine, down this first channel, and then there's a little arrow here which curls round. So we then go back up to the top. Okay, then we're going to go through the hole. See, I don't know all the fancy words because I'm not a sewer, or I've not been doing this particularly long myself, but that's a little hole in the metal thingy. So we feed it through there, grab the end, make sure that the thread, see how the thread's there trying to go in the wrong track, just ease it into the right track like that and bring it down again. Okay, now we've got another number 1 here, which is telling us we need to go through the hole. Can you see that? Through the hole there and grab the tail at the bottom. Okay, so we're going to pull that down. Give yourself a nice long tail. You don't want to be fiddling about with a tiny short one. Okay, right, now what we need to do is come back to the display, and this icon here, can you see that? Zoom right in. Zoom right in. This icon here with a picture of 4 needles, that's better, and the arrow there. If we choose that, that gives us the option to select any one of our 6 needles. Well, we're threading number 1 at the moment, so press number 1, which it's already on. But if we were threading, come back. If we were threading number 3, we'd press number 3, and the carriage would move. Let me do that again. You stay looking at that. So if we were going to do number 5, I'd press number 5 on the screen. The carriage moves along, because this bit here is helping you with the needle threading, and it's also going to be the cutting and whatnot. So I'm going to go back to number 1, so whilst you watch the needles. Okay, so then we come back to the display and we want to thread it. So we press on that needle button there, go back over there, and it throws out the little threader as if from nowhere. And also with the machine you get this gadget. I've no idea what it's called. Can you see that? It's got a little, I don't know, V in the end, and it's got a spring on the end as well here, and you can push that and it makes that pop out. No idea what that's for, but hey ho, it works. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to put the thread, can you see? We're going to put the thread in that V, because we want to tuck it into a bit that we can't get our big fat fingers in. And it's going, come this way, it's going up there, and it wants to go round that. It's got a metal piece of wire up there, and you want the thread to be behind that wire, so that's why we use this gadget. It's not so bad on needle 1, but when you get to needle 2s to 6, you just physically can't get your finger in there. It's impossible. Plus I don't think I'd really want to. Look at me plaster already, look. Okay, so we've got that in there now. I also tend to, while I've got this in my hand, use this to help me get it around the threader. So I don't know how well you can see it. We'll do the best we can. Right, so we've got the needle threader that's got these 2 little bars that's just poked out from nowhere, and this type of blade that's permanently attached to the needle holder. So we want it to go from the right hand side of there, around this blade, make sure it doesn't keep popping off, and then we need to take it up to this bit, which I wondered first of all what it was, but it's actually the thread cutter or a trimmer. So we hoop it around there. There is an arrow to tell you to go around there, and just pull it down and it cuts it for you. So that's the perfect length. The machine's telling you that's the perfect length the thread needs to be to thread it. Okay, so keep an eye on that. What I'm going to do is go over to display whilst you watch that, and press the needle threader button for a second time, and it's going to whip the threader back away and take the thread with it. Okay, are we nice and focused? You can get it from this side a bit better. Okay, can just about see that. Okay, don't blink because you'll miss it. And did you see that other little thing that popped out? That was the wiper, they call that, which is going to tuck it. You can just about see there, the tail is tucked into that little groove there. In there, there's 2 metal bars, and in between the 2 metal bars is like little plastic fibres, like bristles. And that wiper takes the thread tail and it tucks it into that brush, and it keeps them out of the way whilst you're using all the other needles. Fantastic idea. Okay, so that is how you do your thread your machine, and that's about as much as you need to know for that bit. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is, remember when we turned the machine on, it said put a drop of oil in your machine. which you do every day. So take the bobbin out by lifting that little flap and using it as a handle and just pulling it straight towards you. And I'll tell you how to put the bobbin back in a minute. So this is our bobbin case. It does get a bit fluffy, so from time to time you can either use the brush that comes with it, or sometimes I just need to go a bit deeper and get out any stray threads. So sometimes I use a cotton bud and just give it a bit of a wipe round in there. You'd be amazed at how the littlest tiny thread that you can barely see with your eyes makes a difference to your sewing quality. It can make all sorts of problems with tension and bobbin showing and nesting. So just try and get as much of that out as you can. Be careful when you use a cotton bud though, because you can leave fibres behind. I mean, look at that, I only did it yesterday and I've not even sewn anything yet today. And because you're using oil, you do tend to get a bit of a greasy build up and just generally fluff, so just try and clean it as best you can. Okay, so that's that. So when it comes to oiling it, this is sewing machine oil. Don't use WD-40, don't use olive oil, don't use Castrol or whatever it is you use. So this actual sewing machine oil, this has lasted me about 2 years and it's only about half done because you need the tiniest drop. And we need to put it just on this very edge here and you give a tiny little squeeze. There we go. And it started dribbling all over the place. But the amount of difference that makes is absolutely unreal. So just take up any excess on there. Especially if you live in hot countries, dry atmosphere, it dries up very, very quickly. And like I say, it can make a difference to your sewing and your project. It's not worth missing this tiny step to potentially ruin one of your projects. Okay, so then we're going to put well, I'll show you how to put the bobbin in. I use pre-wound bobbins because I'm just too lazy and I think there's not enough hours in the day to wind the amount of bobbins that I get through. So this is embroidery thread. It's size L for this machine and they come in all different sorts. This is a plastic sided one. You can get one that's got like paper sides on here, and you can get one that hasn't got any sides at all, which baffles me. I don't know how it all stays together, but it does, and they all work really, really well. So with the thread coming down from the right hand side and the bobbin case with that little cutout and the screw on the top, I'm going to pop that in there like that, and then through that slot I put the thread and then tuck it around that little bit there so it's coming like that. So when we put the bobbin back in, we're going to do the same we did in reverse. We're going to open this little door and use it as a handle. Now the bobbin thread is on our left hand side. Give yourself a good tail so it's not going to get caught up. Then take it over to the machine and give it a little jiggle. You'll know when it fits nicely. You're not going to do it any damage, and just let it go. And then with this tail, it goes through those two bars at the top of this little bit. Don't force anything. If it's not going to go comfortably, take it out and start again. So then with it through those two bars, we just shut the door and we're ready to sew. I hope this video has been of some use to you. I know I could have done with something as basic as this when I first started. Any problems, any questions? If you want details on any more of the functions, leave comments below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.